Welcome to this docking tutorial. I'll be showing you how to dock your vocals with music, and this is one of the effects you hear a lot from radio station. So I'll be showing you how to turn vocals like this without docking. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So to something like this. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So Alright, so I'm going to be showing you how I actually went through this process, and it's something you might want to try out for your podcast, So that's just how docking works. So I'm going to be breaking down how I went about it shortly. Now, the first thing you want to do when you're docking with music is that definitely you want to have the music going on. And there are some few rules I actually paid attention to, and it's optional, but for me, it actually worked after trying out various things basically. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to set good levels for your vocals. That's from your sound card, and my sound card is currently hitting about, the vocals was actually hitting without the effect. Let us play it and so you can see. So you could also practicalize it for a lot. So it was hitting about 16 or 7, and I made sure my vocals on my sound card was just hitting green and it wasn't really going to the yellow. So the next thing I did after adding all of this was to add a gate. And I'm going to just solo each effect and explain what I did. Now, without the gate, my vocal sounds like this. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right. So actually, there was fan and some other noise in the background. So I adjusted the gate to actually fix that. And what I do with the gate, basically, this is your gain reduction on how much reduction you want. I most times keep it between 10 to 20, but most times I leave it on 20. It's not a fixed rule. You can mess around with it. And for this threshold and the release, you understand, you want to be careful with your release. The attack, I didn't mess with it. 10 milliseconds was enough. But you want to be careful with the release because it could affect how everything sounds. So this is with the release exaggerated. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So the way I set the release is that I set it in a way that immediately I stop talking, the gate close smoothly. So you don't want it to be too sharp and you don't want it to be too slow to close. Then the attack 10 milliseconds was enough instant. For the reduction, I left it at the 20 dB, which was fine, and it sounded like this again, with and without. So I'll just be bypassing it. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So alright, so that's the effect of the gate there. Now, the next thing I added was an EQ, and this EQ, it's not really fixed. EQ is dependent on the voice texture and what you want to achieve. But for me, I actually cut out the high end because the vocals were sounding, there's a lot of heavy frequency, and it's something that had to do with talking, not singing. So I didn't need all those frequency. So I did cut it about to around 13. So without it, it sounds like this. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So alright, so I'm going to be showing you how I actually went through this process. So cutting all of that actually helped reduce the sibilances a little bit from the essays. So I do cut that out since when you're talking. So I boosted about 104 hertz frequency just to give a little thickness, and I did cut to about 60. At first I did cut to 80, but I noticed my voice was sounding a bit thin since when I'm not singing and it's just majorly talking and it's a masculine voice. So I left it around 60, which was good. Then I took out some of these muddy frequencies here. If I should exaggerate it, it sounds like this. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance. So that's the frequency here, and I was getting some feedback frequency here that I actually did take out. Let me exaggerate that. So you could also practicalize it for a live on. So I actually took that out. So please do not cram this EQ. It's depending on what you want to hear and your vocal texture. Another plugin I could have added was the reverb to kill some of the reverbs in this room, but I left it because it's just an illustration and this place is not really well treated. So the next thing I added was a compressor, and this compressor was just to smoothen out things, you know, so it doesn't sound like, hey, you understand, those rise and fall of vocals. So the compressor was just to make everything smooth. And with, okay, let me just go back to the EQ with and without so you hear that. So you could also practicalize it for a live on performance, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So, all right. So I'm going to be showing you how I actually went through this. So let me go to a part where I actually change. There was a bit of peak in my voice without the compressor on, so we can see what the compressor was doing. So get ready. Get ready. I mean, you know. All right. So with the compressor, it sounds this way. So get ready. Get ready. I mean, and now with the compressor, I was doing something mild. And if you know me a lot, you know that I do ratio of most times 3, ratio 1. And I try to keep my reduction about 3 dB, at least when I'm talking. Now, when I go high, it might go above 3 dB, but most times it's always within 3 dB. Now, for my release, release is something you mess around with. Since when this is spoken stuff and I want, immediately I finish speaking and, you know, the compressor let go quickly, I actually kept it around 4 to 0.24 milliseconds. So I actually messed around with it, like came around this point. But you don't want the release to be too much, because when I increase the release too much, this is what happens. And how to do ducking and how to achieve ducking. So it kills the life in the vocal. So you want to mess around with that, but around 4 was okay for me. So it depends on choice. So for the attack, I kept the attack very, very low because I want the compressor to kick in immediately, so that it compressed things fast. And I kept a very mild release, so I released it very fast. So that was all I did for the compressor here. Now this is different from the sidechain I'm going to do with the song. Now moving to the song. So after I've gotten my rich volume level for my vocals, the first thing I did was to reduce the volume of the song to about 6 dB below the vocals. So if you see the vocals without the effect was around 17. How to do ducking and how to achieve ducking. So the instrument was, let me switch off the compressor, sorry. So the instrument was hitting around 22. So that's what the instrument was hitting, 22. So what you want to do with this song, since when this is a finished song, you don't want to mix anything. What you want to do is to load the compressor on the song. And here's the tricky part. So for some reasons, for ducking, I actually prefer 4 ratio 1, and you could go 3 or whatever. It depends on what you want. Now, depending on how much ducking you want, most times I've tried various settings, and for me, I felt like what was working and giving me the ducking I wanted was around minus 15, 14, 10 to minus 15 dB reduction. And the release time was around 5.32. Now, if you set this release time too much, it's going to duck almost everything, and it's not going to even release it even when you stop talking. So you want to be careful with this release time and set it to a very reasonable. I think this is a very fast release. You want to set it to a very reasonable extent that the song also benefit from it and your vocals also benefit from it. I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to explain. So that's just the idea. If you set the release so slow, the ducking effect is not going to be so obvious. But if you increase it too fast, it's going to be too much. So that's just what I did. So if you check the reduction here, you see around 14 to minus 15 dB gain reduction. On how to do ducking and how to achieve ducking very soon. So get ready. So I'll just bypass it and on and bypass it so you can see the difference in what it does to the vocals on the music. Alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking about some important things I want you to take note of. And currently I'm actually trying to record things on the vocal channel itself, and so that you can hear how compressor work a little bit, so you get a feel and an idea of how things goes here. Alright, so if you're wondering how to achieve compression, it's quite easy and straightforward. All you have to do. Alright, so after doing all of that, you could also add makeup gain, in which I didn't do here. So, alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking about some important things I want you to take note of. And currently I'm actually trying to record. So this is not a rigid rule, so you can mess around it to determine how much gain reduction you want and what suits whatever you want to get. So basically this is just how I went about it, and for me it was okay because it was ducking the vocals so well. So there's no rigid rule to ducking. It's based on what you want to hear and what you want your finished product to sound like. So for me, this was quite okay. So then that's why I'm decided to share my approach. So you could come up with something, mess around with the ratio and the threshold, the release and attack to come up with something much more suitable for you. I believe this video is helpful. If you want more short videos like this, subscribe for more.